To escape from the curses I was born to break, finding a way to overcome my fears. I am strong enough. There might be some bumpy roads ahead, but I'm equipped. I've learned some great lessons. The power lies in me. Now I see so clearly. All my steps are destined. I'm going in the right direction. Gotta keep believing in myself. Gotta keep going, don't give up. Yes, I'm gonna see this through. Yeah, trust in you. The only way out is to go within. Now I see you're my best friend. Yes, I finally found my peace. I know that I can trust in me. It's a blessing that I've come this far. 'Cause when you feel alone, I know it can get hard. But I'm choosing gratitude, grace, love, and peace. You're always with me. All my steps are destined. I'm going in the right direction. Yeah. Gotta keep believing in myself. Gotta keep going, don't give up. Yes, I'm gonna see this through. Yeah, I put my trust in you. The only way out is to go within. Now I see you're my best friend. Yes, I finally found my peace. I know that I can trust in me. I am connected to a love that never runs out. I am connected to a source that never runs out. I am connected to a love that never runs out. I am connected to a source that never runs out. I am connected to a love that never runs out. I am connected to a source that never runs out. I am connected to a love that never runs out. I am connected. I gotta keep believing in myself. Gotta keep going, don't give up. Yes, I'm gonna see this through. Yeah, I put my trust in you. The only way out is to go within. Now I see you're my best friend. Yes, I finally found my peace. I know that I can trust in me. Believing in myself. Gotta keep going, don't give up. Yes, I'm gonna see this through. Yeah, I put my trust in you. The only way out is to go within. Now I see you're my best friend. Yes, I finally found my peace. I know that I can trust in me.
Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome. Thank you for tapping in and tuning in to this broadcast. We are doing everything we can just to stay abreast on keeping in touch with you guys. Bishop he had recently had a procedure surgery this week, and he was dealing with some pain for some time. But after he had that, he has no pain, and he was in the hospital, which I believe was a great place for him as he was dealing with a bacterial infection, and he's been dealing with infections. And currently, he is at home. Can we get some hearts? Can we get something? Can you guys throw something in the comments? Because he's at home, and it's so beautiful that he is able to get home. He has had so many of you guys reach out to him, and so much love is coming in. There's donations coming in, so many people reaching out to him, and it's a wonderful and beautiful and welcoming that you guys are showing him all the love. He sees it, he knows it, and I believe 100% that is helping Bishop bring something energy and back into his life as we connect and share. Tonight, I have someone very special that many people may not know of or know of him. Bishop has a lot of people in his life, and some pretty dynamic people that is in his life. Amazing people. Of course, you know, if you're around greatness, of course, you're probably not too far from it yourself. And so Bishop has a person in his life that he's had in his life since 1987. And Bishop wanted to do a show with Mr. Muzi Cindi. But as we carry on, I want to be able to carry on and let some of his dear friends bring you some words of encouragement, words that can help make a difference in your life, words that can change your world. I truly believe after everything that has happened, even with Bishop going through this, what he's going through, I truly believe that many of us are going to be raised up to expand and expound on this expanded consciousness, this wave of energy, even though we still have our Pentecostal or even some of us may have evangelical roots, but as we say, deconstruct and come into a newness or a renewness or a rebirth, we can have this moment and opportunity that we could pick up the baton and carry on with this word or with this message. We have a special guest tonight. His name is Muzi Cindi. Muzi Cindi is from South Africa, by the way, of Thailand. He has recently retired in Thailand, but he was a dynamic businessman working with the South African government. And Bishop has spent many years. He was also was a no longer a evangelical pastor there in South Africa. I believe they met in the 80s. This goes way back before the kids and everything, and it moves up all the way until today. And there's something really unique about this dynamic duo. The uniqueness to me is the fact that both of these individuals had a transformation process as they begin to rethink the ideas and the theology that they were raised or brought up with. It is a hard thing to be in either country to all of a sudden deny and decide that you feel different about life, different about your belief system. And so tonight, I want to welcome, of course, 100% to the stage, Muzi Cindi, and bear with us and stay with us because Muzi has a book, Jesus in a Digital Age. And he's going to explain to you more. We're about to show some different things about these guys' travel. You're going to see some behind the scenes. So bear with us, share this, because this is going to be exciting. All right. Welcome to the stage, Mr. Muzi Cindi. Muzi?
Good morning, Malachi. How are you?
I am wonderful. It's so good to see you. So good to see you. You are now currently in Chicago, where Bishop was supposed to be, I believe.
Yes. Bishop was supposed to come here to the World Parliament of World Religions. And I was with Bishop in 2018 in Toronto, Canada. And we wanted him to be here. There was great Michael Beckwith was here. The whole New Thought leadership was here. And so even in New Thought, Bishop Pearsons is seen as the father of New Thought, the apostle, the bishop of New Thought. And I remember in 2018 when we were in Toronto, Canada, there were long lines of people wanting to talk to Bishop. And we really missed him this time because his health wouldn't allow him to be here.
Beautiful. But you guys were able to, I believe, of course, Majesty was able to attend. If you people, she's posted some of those things on social media, and Miss Gina, um, they were both able to attend and go there with you, correct?
Definitely, definitely. Actually, Majesty was singing, did a lot of singing performances. But one of the remarkable things is that Majesty was able to share in one of the biggest stages of her life at the Parliament of World Religions in front of 10,000 people. It was a big, big, big moment. Actually, we've even requested a YouTube short that we'll be putting up on all links, and people will be able to see it. We did put some snippets on Facebook, but Majesty was magical. And when I look at Majesty, I see Bishop Carlton Pearson. He's a direct replica and influence of Bishop Carlton Pearson. And actually, I will say, in this divine feminine, Majesty, I see her as the reincarnation, a divine feminine reincarnation of Bishop Carlton Pearson. She's a wonderful, phenomenal woman, and there's a great future waiting for her.
Got cut off real quick there.
I said there's a great future waiting for Majesty Pearson, and I see her as a reincarnation, Bishop Carlton Pearson.
Beautiful.
Yes.
That's so beautiful. The one of the things that I want to just get right into and let these people know is that you guys have had a long relationship. Give us just a real brief background on when you guys got started in your relationship. And because I really want to get to this Jesus in the Digital Age, because people really need to know this Expanded Conscious book and hear Bishop talk. I have a piece of 3 minutes of the forward I want people to actually hear, because it's going to be really amazing. But give us a brief a caption, if you will, you guys, when you guys met, and your transformation. But then also want you to talk a little bit about your family vacations that you guys had.
Okay. I first met Bishop Carlton Pearson in 1987. He was not the bishop then. He was just Carlton Pearson. And he was invited annually at our big conferences that were organized by the Rhema Church in South Africa, pastored by Pastor Ray Macaulay. And he invited him once, and there was such a demand for Carlton Pearson that he ended up coming almost every year. And he was not even married. And I was joking with Julian and Majesty that when I met Bishop Pearson, they were -10 and -8 because they were not born yet. And so we've had a 40-year relationship together. And so his awakening and my awakening happened around the same time. And from then, in 2011, I went to Chicago to attend Inclusion 11. And that's when I reconnected with him. And I remember that the late Bishop John Shelby Spong was one of the speakers. And David Alexandra was there. And Bauma was there. There were many, many leaders, New Thought leaders. Michael Beckwith was there. And it was a great moment. And I looked at this man, and something in my heart told me that I needed to adopt, even though he's older than me. But I needed to adopt this man as an elder brother. I needed to adopt his family, his wife, his kids. And we started then traveling the whole world together. In 2011, I took his kids to Thailand, and we had a great time. And in 2012, I took him and his wife to Mexico. Now, you remember in 2012, there was this end of the world hype that the world is coming to an end, the Mayan age coming to an end, and we wanted to experience that. So we took him to Acapulco, and also took them to the place where the Mayans lived. We saw the pyramids. We climbed the mountains where human sacrifices were made almost on a daily basis. And it was a great learning experience. And after that, we went back to Thailand. We went to Phuket. We went to Singapore. We went to many countries it was an annual pilgrimage for us and the family. And I felt that I owed that to this guy who was now a mentor, a teacher, a friend, and someone that I watched suffer for his beliefs. And I always say, I think Carlton Pearson suffered more than Jesus. Because, Jesus suffered for only, a few months.
Right.
When he went to crucifixion, besides the accusations and besides these other things. But his physical suffering lasted only a few weeks or a few months. But I mean, Carlton Pearson suffered for a long time for awakening, for being true to himself. And so I see him as a reincarnation of Jesus Christ. I see him as a reincarnation of the Buddha. I see him as the reincarnation of all the ascended masters. He's a very brilliant man. He is a great thinker, but more than anything else, he is full of a heart, a loving heart. He's forgiving, he's loving, he's tolerant, he's understanding. Many times when we travel around the world, I as an individual, do a lot of mistakes and do things wrong. But he will never rebuke me. He will never say, Muzi, you're not supposed to do these things. You're not supposed to do this. But what he will do, he will wait for the right time and call me to a private place and give me some good counseling and say, Muzi, this is not the way you do things. This is how you do things. And sometimes also, if you are treating a lady companion badly and you're not putting a first, he says, no, Muzi, man, this is not how women are treated. You need to treat women with kindness, you see? And this is the kind of a person that he is. And I really value him. I love him dearly.
Good.
I love him with the whole of my heart.
Yes, you have had some experiences together as friends, and I truly believe that some of the things you've experienced kind of help each other grow. Here's a picture. Tell us a little bit about this picture here. You guys were in.
No. Yeah, we were in Singapore. Now, I was in Singapore. I was minding my own business, and I went to a shopping mall. And as I came out of a shopping mall, there was a lot of Chinese people chanting, and suddenly something came over me. I felt oneness with these Chinese people. And everybody thought, what happened to Muzi now? He has gone crazy. And it reminded me of Jesus, where people say, hey, where are Muzi's brothers and sisters? Call him. Call the brothers and sisters. And Muzi is in Singapore, and Muzi has gone crazy. Because I was shouting and calling everybody on my phone. I said, where's Bishop Pearson? Call everybody. And now, Bishop Pearson, ultimately, we located him. And we took him to this is the Tibetan monk. Now, the Tibetan monk, they practice the Tao. This is a 3,000-old religion. And the Taoist, it is a Taoist monk. And Taoism, Buddhism, and Hinduism, Taoism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Shintoism. These are spiritual paths that have existed for more than 3,000 years without a belief in God or gods whatsoever. But the energy there, once you are there, you sense the energy. Right now, I'm in Thailand. I work in Thailand. I've relocated to Thailand. And I don't see the difference. There's only a difference in name. For instance, this book that is called Jesus for a Digital Age. If I was in Thailand, I would call it the Buddha for a digital age. Because now in Thailand, when I started talking about these things and posting things on Facebook, then they started calling me Lord Buddha. They said Lord Buddha is back. So everybody in Thailand calls me Lord Buddha. But now if I was in India, they would call me Atman or Brahman. If I was in China, they would call me maybe the Taoist, the Tao, the nameless Tao, or Confucius. And in science, they would call me a theory of everything. So this book, Jesus, is only a Western concept. We could use Jesus for different belief systems, not actually belief systems, spiritualities. We can say the Buddha for a digital age, because we can access the Buddha for a digital age right in the gadget that you're having in your hand. We can call it Atman for a digital age, because you can access Atman right there in the gadget that you're having in your hand. We can even call it energy for a digital age, because we can access that energy right there where you are seated.
Yes, sir. It says here, accessing the practice and power of modern spirituality. I want you to briefly, what I'm going to do is I want you to briefly talk about the accessing the practice and the power. And then what we're going to do is, as you guys see here, there's a forward by Bishop. And what we're going to do is we're going to move out the way and we're going to listen to 3 minutes of Bishop reading his own forward. In the audio version of this book, Bishop reads the entire book, and we're going to have something available for you related to this evening. So actually, you're going to be able to be a part of a process that Muzi is wanting to do something for Bishop, and so he wants to put this book up for offer through a donations up to $20. Those books have to be shipped out to you. We'll talk about that more. Muzi, talk to us about the practice and power of modern spirituality, and then we'll listen to a brief of Bishop reading the forward.
Accessing the practice and power of modern spirituality is a subtitle that was suggested to me by one of my mentors, a Jewish mystic by the name of Deborah Van Zyl. Deborah Van Zyl was there at the Great Religion Conference, Power of Parliament of World Religions. And that's where also she and her husband ordained me as an all paths minister, reverend, all paths divinity reverend. And she's in 2018, when my pastor, Reverend Stephanie Clark, was helping me edit the book, because now she's an English speaker, an English teacher. So I gave her the book. I said, I want you to make sure that the English in this book is readable and is understandable by everybody. And then we discussed that with Deborah, and she suggested, we said, now what kind of subtitle are we going to use? And she came with this one, accessing the practice and the power of modern spirituality. Now, at the bottom of that subtitle, you see the Instagram, the Facebook, the Twitter, and the WhatsApp handles. So in other words, all the time, every moment, every day, you see people, they are either on Instagram, they are either on Facebook, they are either on Twitter, or they are either on WhatsApp. And what they are reading there, they are reading about the I am, because each human being is a representative of the I am. I am is each human being. I am is expressed in every human being, but not only in human beings, but we get animals. Animals cannot maybe communicate with us. But if animals could communicate, they will say, I am. If a table could communicate, the table will say, I am. If the mountain could communicate, the mountain will say, I am. So Jesus, for a digital age, we can also say is the I am for a digital age. And I am means you. I am means an atheist. I am means an agnostic. I am means a believer. I am means a none. Those people who say we don't believe in nothing, we don't tick anything in the box, where it says, are you a believer? Are you a mystic? Are you a Jew? Are you a Hindu or whatever religion? And it says, I am none. And I say to these people who call themselves nuns, None, not N-U-N, None. Those people who call themselves nuns, I want you to know that even though you call yourself a nun, you are, I am. Before you say none, you begin with I am. I am a nun. I am is your real identity. Forget about none. But who you are is I am. And the accessing the practice and power of modern spirituality. When I talk to nuns, when I talk to atheists, when I talk to Hindus, when I talk to agnostics, I just say, find a place where you are alone, where you are all by yourself, and just say, I am. Just say, I am, and keep quiet.
What I believe that's really neat, I have this book, guys, and what I'll tell you is what he's saying ultimately is that this is a book that has been built or written, that is a part of the inclusion message that Bishop talked about. This book is really dynamic in the sense that it gives you some tools and resources when it comes to the follow-up, if you will, of the gospel of inclusion with Bishop. And this book is maybe 300 pages or more.
It's about 400 pages.
So it's about 400 pages. So there's a lot of resources there's a lot within this book. And right now, what we're going to do is we're going to listen to Bishop read the foreword, about 3 minutes of it. So bear with us.
Cindi to our emerging universal world of consciousness reader. His pioneering spirit and theological genius have been confined largely to South Africa. Muzi was one of the pastors who used to frequent my meetings in the early 80s when I visited South Africa under the banner of the Word of Faith movement. In 2007, he had an awakening that ushered him into universal consciousness. We then reconnected, again under the banner of expanded consciousness. Muzi is playing a very important pioneering role in our universe that is now waking up from its deep sleep. As you read this very controversial book, consider the following about the United States of America. Fewer people are going to church these days, especially younger ones, called the millennial generation. They are 22 to 37 years old and also known as Generation Y. Research has shown that 90% of people in the millennial generation are very active on social networks in America. Less than 20% of all Americans are actually attending church on any given Sunday. In other words, more than 80% of Americans are finding more fulfilling things to do on weekends. The USA is following right in the footsteps of Europe, abandoning religiosity in favor of authentic spirituality. Somewhere between 4,000 and 7,000 churches are closing their doors every year. Between the years of 2010 and 2012, more than half of all churches in America failed to add even one new member. Each year, nearly 3 million more previous churchgoers are entering the ranks of the religiously unaffiliated. The spiritual curiosity and fascination in religion has disappeared due to stagnation, ritual, tradition, and sleepwalking saints, believers. Millions of people experience greater transformation and inspiration from drugs, secular music, rock concerts, parties, and sports than they do from the typical rote style or staleness of traditional Sunday services. Talented musical performers on TV's The Voice or American Idol seem more anointed, or at least more gifted, than the musicians at many church services these days. My social media rants are to encourage all of us to reconsider and revisit our entrenched beliefs about God, the Bible, church, Jesus, etc., and to question why we believe them. I love community, both spiritually and socially, but does going to church have the same appeal to you as it once did, or did it ever have spiritual appeal? It gives me...
That, my friends, is the opening of this book, Jesus for a Digital Age. It is very, as Bishop says, it is could be considered controversial based on its inclusive message. It is a very inclusive book. It looks at other faiths. If Muzi, you hold up your scarf, I believe Bishop would have one if he was able to go to the parliament. But if you can hold up your scarf, that right there, if you kind of see that at the World Parliament of Religion, it's a place where all of these different faiths come together. And of course, as we know, I believe Judaism, Christianity, and Islam serve over the half of the world's population in belief. That's about 5 billion people. There's 8 billion people on the planet. And so this book that he has written, Jesus for a Digital Age, is something that you guys would definitely want to access. If anyone I see in the comments here that people are fearful of anything other than what they have been told, as we would say in science, programmed to actually think or be. Earlier today, I was speaking with my web developer who has worked for me for 5 or 6 years, and he's a Muslim, and he was born and raised in Bangladesh. And it's interesting as we work together, and he's the one that has put Bishop's site, and we're working on various different projects. And it's a wonderful and beautiful thing as we carry on this inclusive message, this message of inclusion. I truly believe that the world has no other choice. Because if we did not begin to change, we would possibly still be serving the same God that was hanging folks. They believed that it was God that was telling them what to do when we were suffering, especially here in America. But Mr. Muzi, I would love to, as we move on to this next section, guys, what we would like to do is we would like to open up the floor and allow for you guys to put some questions on the wall. I'm monitoring it right here. And so if you have any questions for him about the book, if you have any questions related to this, or if you have any questions related to your own journey, Bishop gets a lot of questions from individual people talking about their process of where they are. One recent person sent a message, and her daughter said to her that she's probably not going to have kids, because why would she want to bring them to this earth so they have to possibly go to hell? She said, I don't want to have kids if God is going to send my kid to hell if they don't accept what has been said. And
Yes, Malachi.
yes.
And actually, I just wanted to add that,
Go ahead.
because I say that also in the book, that what kind of a God is a God who's going to raise my lovely son? You saw my son likes to misbehave. Let's say my son dies, and God raises my son from the dead and changes his mortal body to be immortal in order to burn that body in hell forever and ever and ever and ever. And I, as a father, I'm sitting there in heaven watching my beloved son burning in hell forever and ever and ever and ever for a short lifetime sins that he committed. So his body is going to be made immortal by this cruel God and burn it forever and ever. And I sit there and I say, oh God, your mercies endureth forever. What a contradiction. Before you continue, I just wanted to read some of the endorsements that came on this book. There are only 3 endorsements. One of them is from my great friend, Bishop Jackson Kosa. And he says, Muzi is one of the global messengers of the new spiritual reformation that is sweeping the world today. The second endorsement comes from my Reverend Stephanie Clark, whom I met after my awakening, and the one who edited this book. She says, Muzi is a visionary, a scholar, and a divine lover of God. This controversial book will sweetly shatter all your cherished concepts of God, Christianity, and religion. And it will call you into being as the Christ consciousness that you are. Let me repeat that last sentence. He says this book will call you into being. It will call you into being as the Christ consciousness that you are. That's why I call it Jesus for a digital age. I could have said Christ consciousness for a digital age. I could have used different kind of names. Forget about Yeshua. Forget about Hamashiach. Forget about those 2,000-year-old names. They mean nothing in our postmodern world. Then the last endorsement comes from Dr. Michael Beckwith, my dear friend. Then he says, Dr. Michael Beckwith says, I heard some leaders say Muzi Cindi is far ahead of them. I say Muzi Cindi is not far ahead. Muzi Cindi has just entered a dimension that is outside of space and outside of time. Let yourself be mesmerized by what he has to say in this book. So these are the 3 endorsements.
Pick the book up and show him what you just read.
Yes.
He just read. That's the back of the book that he just read from the endorsements of various individual people that have endorsed this, has read the book, and this book is really very, very interesting and intriguing for those of you who are really open to discovering who you truly are. There's another quote that I believe you said, Muzi, that, we have some comments here, and I can't wait for Bishop to come back and be able to give his take and enlighten some folks. And because I've seen some comments, and you've experienced these comments. Bishop has experienced these comments. And of course, one of the comments, I don't know if they were talking about when you said Jesus, Carlton suffered more than Jesus. He said in days, Jesus suffered. If you look at the story, Jesus suffered, but he suffered
a few hours.
A few hours in this sense,
Yes.
whenever it comes to being hung on the cross. And I don't know how many people, like, when we take the literal word of, we only take part of it literally. We don't take the whole thing literally in the first place when it comes to the Bible and scriptures. But heck, I believe in your book, you actually address some of these things within religion, don't you?
Yes, no, actually, this book is very deeply scholarly, because I think it has a bibliography at the end of the book, and the bibliography itself is actually, it's got lots of resources, some of them. And for instance, I can read some of the recommended additional references. If God is not a being, then what is God? Then the second one, it says, which is the God that is found in Jesus? Which God do we find in Jesus? And the third one, it says, understanding the times we live in. And there's one that says Christ consciousness meditations. And then there's more than 300 scholars that are quoted in this book, from the Jesus seminar professors, from atheists, and also, actually, I had one quotation that is my favorite quotation, because all truth is the truth of God, even if that truth comes from an atheist. It is still the truth of God. One of the greatest philosophers of our time is Professor Daniel Dennett, the philosopher. And here's a quotation that he says, the one thing that I think is really dangerous in many religions is that it gives people a gold-plated excuse to stop thinking. He says religion, actually all religions, give people a gold-plated excuse to stop thinking. And then he says, there is no polite way of asking somebody, have you considered the possibility that your entire life has been devoted to a delusion? Now, let me tell you a short story. In 2007, on the 17th of August, I had an awakening after reading a book by Richard Dawkins, The God Delusion. I was on my way to being an atheist, because whilst I was reading The God Delusion, I traveled the whole of Europe. I traveled Auschwitz. I saw the places where the Jews were banned. I saw the Catholic cathedrals that were built for 600 years that are now standing empty. I went to the Colosseum in Italy, where the people were fed to lions, to be eaten by lions. And so after my awakening, I visited one of the great professors, a respected evangelical professor, who's been in the ministry for more than 60 years. And I told him about what happened to me after reading Professor Richard Dawkins' book, and the awakening that happened to me. And after listening to me, he said, Muzi, with due respect, I think you were visited by a demon. So my awakening, what happened to me, this great, wonderful thing that happened to me. He said to me, it seemed like you were visited by a demon. But who was also said to have been visited by a demon? Jesus. Jesus was also said to be the chief, actually, of demons, controlled by Beelzebub. So I used this quotation to him again as a professor, as a person who has spent 60 years in evangelical spirituality. I said, Professor, have you ever considered the possibility? Have you ever considered the possibility that your entire 60 years of evangelical theology has been devoted to a delusion? And that's the question that I ask many pastors, great pastors, philosophers, theologians in the evangelical church who tell me that I've been in this thing for 50 years, I've been in this thing for 40 years. Then I ask them, have you ever considered that your entire life has been committed, has been devoted to a delusion that you call the move of God, or the visitation of God, or the power of God? Have you considered that that is a delusion? That's a question. That's a very, very deep question that we all have to ask. Am I in a delusion, or am I in the right path? And that's the question that will take you out of your comfort zone, because your life will only begin when you leave this comfort zone that you are in right now.
I truly don't know that people have actually read Bishop's book, God is Not a Christian, let alone his book, Gospel of Inclusion. Because if people knew and they actually picked up those books, even though he penned those books some time ago, you could know and get some other answers on what Bishop has to say when it comes to some of the very things that you're speaking of. I don't see any necessarily questions. I do see some really good comments. In short, she says, "A white religion, I stand against it. I'm so free now." And I believe that there's a lot of people that are out there that are. This is whenever when I see some of the comments that are fairly traditional when it comes to a person speaking like you're speaking and not necessarily pushing Jesus and Jesus only, it really triggers a lot of people. And did you ever get triggered when you heard anything like this, or were you actually afraid and scared more than you were just triggered when you were a evangelical yourself?
Yeah, as an evangelical, I would say the evangelical, my upbringing, I was born inside the evangelical church. I like to joke and say I was born, bred, and buttered inside the evangelical church. And it was only after my awakening that I discovered that the evangelical church specializes in fear, guilt, and shame. Fear, guilt, and shame. This is why you go to every evangelical church, there is always an altar call. That altar call is about fear, guilt, and shame. But it only lasts for a short moment where you are in church on Sunday. On Monday, you are back to being a human being, facing the challenges of life, facing the challenges of work, facing the complexities of life the whole week. And then on Sunday, you are filled with fear, guilt, and shame again. and then you must go back to church and confess your fear, shame, and guilt. If you take away fear, shame, and guilt from the church, then the whole church infrastructure collapses. The whole evangelical church infrastructure is built and supported by fear, shame, and guilt. Going back to Adam, when Adam was found naked and he was asked, "Why did you hide yourself?" And he says, "I was ashamed. I was naked and I became ashamed." So, this is the issue that is happening in our lives. And I personally believe that we have to deal with this shame, fear, and guilt. That is, these are the strongholds. If you talk about the strongholds that are holding the church down, is fear, shame, and guilt. And these are the strongholds that make people flock to churches and fill up churches because they've got this fear, shame, and guilt. And the reason why people like Bishop Pearsons went through the pain and the suffering that they went through is because they began to tell people that there's no need to fear hell. Now you take away hell from the church, then you don't have any church left. Because hell, the belief in hell, is the foundation of the church. People go to church, people do whatever they do because they don't want to go to hell. They're afraid of going to hell. So fear, shame, and guilt are the pillars that undergird the church today. That's what we need to deal with in our post-modern time.
Beautiful. I think those things that you said, along with collective consciousness, the average person has no understanding of basic psychology, let alone anything advanced in psychology. And so therefore, to understand the collective consciousness and the fact that you do what you do because of the collective. My kids are on social media, just as most of us, we're broadcasting this via social media. And you can see a pair of shoes that you might want to get, but all of a sudden you'll see a lot of people with those shoes, or you'll see a lot of people wanting those shoes. And for the most part, you don't even realize that you may even want those because of what you've been influenced by. I went to Oral Roberts University, just as Carlton, born and raised Church of God in Christ. But I remember they used to go to us and they used to go on the street and they would ask people and push people in the sense of say, do you know where you would go? Do you have a relationship with Jesus? They would put people on the spot because it's almost a shame and guilt tactic if you don't say what they want you to say, because they have been trained to do that, and they called it conviction, but ultimately it was really, I didn't necessarily feel convicted. It was more or less pure pressure and force. And if you didn't join the collective of this consciousness, then all of a sudden you're going to lose family and friends because of the fact that people are so afraid that they're willing to disassociate themselves with those individuals. What I want to do now moving forward is, I was trying to do something real special. We wanted to put this on Bishop's website, but what I have here is, I'm going to just shared this inside of the Facebook, and I'm gonna post it on here. What we have right here, this is something special Muzi would like to do. Muzi has left some books here in the city of Tulsa so that his family can send out these books And we're going to try to get Bishop to write a special message to individuals that donate to this link. And we still have New Dimensions. I will show that for individuals that want to just donate directly to Bishop and to his work. But tonight I have posted this also on the Facebook, YouTube page. You can find it there on the page. I'll make sure I'll post it on the actual Facebook page. But what we have here is Muzi is going to give a book for those who donate, and it's all the instructions are actually on the GoFundMe page. He wants to lift up Bishop. Bishop is his dear, dear, dear friend. They have been friends for a long time. They have both gone through similar processes. And one of the things you have to understand, regardless, when it comes to accepting people, for those of you people who don't want to accept anyone that doesn't believe as you believe, or you want to say, I love you or love them, but actually you really don't. You really don't. And so the thing is it's time for us to wake up. It's time for us to shake off the old and bring in something that is actually, to me, a true relationship with the divine, what Jesus was actually speaking of and talking about, if you want to take those words. But as you travel the world, you will understand and see, especially here in America from other countries, that America has been bought and sold when it comes to the belief of Christianity. There's, I believe, 40,000 plus denominations, 40,000 plus denominations, because each individual begin to have a different understanding. So we develop a new one, another understanding, we develop a new one. And now, if you go on social media, you'll see there's nothing but attacks on who is saying it right when it comes to that space. Who's saying it right? One of your books, Muzi, was Don't Believe What I Say, wasn't it?
Yes, don't believe what I believe. That was
Don't
my
believe
first
what I
book.
believe.
That was my first book after my awakening. And because basically that awakening was influenced by an atheist. And I realized that people will simply dismiss that book and say, no, you listening to an atheist and you had an awakening. It was a fake awakening. And I said, I wrote the book, I said, don't believe what I believe. Just see the world through my eyes. At that time, I was outside of Christianity, looking inside of Christianity. In other words, I took some lenses, some glasses from an atheist, glasses from an agnostic, or glasses from a Buddhist, and I used those glasses to look at Christianity. And that's why, now, when I say don't believe, I believe on that day, on the 17th of August, 2007, I became a mystic. And as a mystic, I felt that I'm not going to do what all these other mystics have done. Because when people become mystics, then they want everybody to follow their beliefs. This is how we ended up having 50,000 denominations within the Protestant movement only, whilst the Catholic Church has remained intact, because the Catholic Church listens to only one person, the Pope, and what the Pope says cascades down to the cardinals and to the other bishops. But within the Protestant movement, everybody hears a revelation, and after hearing a revelation, he goes to start a church. And somebody will say, I started a church because I was visited by an angel called Michael. And that angel called Michael spoke to me, and the words were profound, and I started the church. And within that church, somebody will have a revelation from Archangel Michael. And he will say, no, my pastor's revelation is based on Michael, but my revelation is senior, is bigger, than my pastor's revelation because it comes from Archangel Michael. So I'm leaving this church on the basis of this revelation, of this mystical visitation. I'm going to start another church. All these churches that are here in the States or all over the world, Protestant movements, if you ask the leaders, how did you start this church? He'll say, I have the visitation. Oh, you had a visitation. So you want everybody to believe your visitation. You want everybody to believe what happened to you. And you want to push your beliefs to everybody. And if people don't believe your beliefs, then they're going to hell. They're going to burn in hell because you believe that your belief was so authentic. My belief, my experience was a very authentic experience. But even though as authentic as it was, I did not want to impose it on other people because I want people to find the truth within themselves. There's no truth out there. The only truth that you will ever find is the truth that you will find within yourself. There's no God out there. The only God that you will find is the God that you find within yourself. You are the temple of that holy God. You are the temple of this character we call Jesus. There's no Jesus out there. There's no Jesus coming. The second coming of Christ is you realizing your own being, your own divinity, your own mystical dimension. That makes you the second coming of Christ. The second coming of Christ today is about the rising of mystics all over the world, not only in Christianity, in Buddhism, in Hinduism, in all the religions of the world. In Islam, there are people who are awakening. We are right in the midst of the greatest awakening that humanity has seen. Unfortunately, the evangelical church, together with the left behind theologians, is left behind. So many theologians wrote books called Left Behind. And they did not know that by writing those books called Left Behind, they were causing the evangelical church to be left behind from the awakening that is sweeping the world. So I see most of the evangelical church being left behind. Actually, to go back to what you were saying about what is happening in America, I see America as the postmodern Babylon. America is the postmodern Babylon, and we need some Cyrus who will deliver America from this Babylon that America finds itself in. And many people are not even aware that they're living right in the midst of Babylon, postmodern Babylon, postmodern slavery, postmodern, they've left their homes. And to quote my late mentor, Bishop John Shelby Spong, we're all asking ourselves, how do we sing the Lord's song in this land of Babylon? The reason why people are leaving churches, the reason why people can no longer stay in churches, there's this question, how do we sing the Lord's song in these churches? How do we sing the Lord's song here? We can no longer sing the Lord's song inside these churches because churches are about guilt, they're about fear, and they're about shame. There's no love in the church, and love has left the church. Fear, guilt, and shame are the only attributes that are left behind in the church. So people leave the church to find love from atheists. They find love amongst agnostics. They find love amongst Buddhists. They find love amongst people, amongst unexpected people. In our time, we are going to see God using people that we never expected that God would use. Because God is bigger than our religion. God is bigger than Christianity. God is bigger than evangelical Christianity. We don't have the copyright to the mysteries of God. And we have to admit that. We have to start there. That there's so much that we have to learn about God. There's a book that you can unload today we're talking about Jesus for the digital age. There's a book that you can download. It's a 700-year-old book called The Cloud of Unknowing. The Cloud of Unknowing is a powerful book. The author of that book is unknown. It's a mystical author. He or she decided not to put their name down, but they wrote the book, The Cloud of Unknowing. You can download it from the internet. It talks about this mystery of unknowing that we don't know. And the moment you say, I don't know, you open the door to knowledge. And science itself is based on unknowing. Scientists say we don't know. And when scientists say we don't know, they open the door to knowing. So awakening and accessing the power of modern spirituality, one of the advices that I would give to anybody is to say, I don't know. I really don't know. I might have been a pastor for 40 years. I might have been in the evangelical church for 50 years, but I've come to a place where I say, I don't know, and I want to know. When you say, I don't know, I want to know, is a prayer that comes from the inside of you, and knowledge will come on its own.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I appreciate you for your time and for your commitment and for all your years of the friendship that you have maintained with Bishop Pearson and all of the opportunities you guys have had together and different adventures in business and all sorts of different things you guys have done together. And it's with all due respect that you have put this book together, Jesus for a Digital Age, knowing that it has Bishop is the one that is reading the audiobook, but also he wrote the foreword within this book. And what we're doing tonight, once again, that GoFundMe, Jesus for a Digital Age, that's a special thing that Muzi's doing, that once that you guys give in there, we will be able to have all your information so I can send you one of those books. And there's also an audio file. And we will end up having this also available on Bishop's website. But tonight and through this week, I'm going to have this GoFundMe page up, Jesus for a Digital Age. I also posted on Bishop's Facebook and YouTube. And believe me, don't be afraid or don't be scared to question this reality, because as Muzi has quoted there, lift up your document that you just, that not your poster that you had at the World Parliament about your best quote, your favorite quote.
Okay, this one.
This there, go up a little higher. Right there, that right there. The really important part, there is no polite way of asking somebody, have you considered that possibility that your entire life has been devoted to a delusion? That is a very interesting and provocative and very uncomfortable question when the ego has had so much power over our actual true self, true and divine self. Muzi, we have no questions here, but you could put that down, and we will go ahead and end this. We'll go ahead and end this live. We appreciate you guys for actually tapping in and tuning in. I went on and put the Cash App New Dimensions 2. That right there is going directly to Bishop. If you just want to send a few dollars his way, please do. it will, you have no idea how much it really helps him when he actually decided that he couldn't do it anymore. He really truly let it all go, completely let it all go. And I asked him not too long ago if it was worth it. And he said yes. It was definitely worth it for where he is and how he has been able to be mentally and spiritually free. Muzi, thank you for your time. And we look forward to hopefully having you on again very, very soon with Bishop. And if someone has a question, one question, please, if you have the question, go ahead and post it on there for me. And that way he can go ahead and answer. Someone that has just purchased the book, The Cloud of Unknowing. This is beautiful to me whenever we get the comments and people getting additional help, additional information to help them.
Yes, Malachi. Actually, those books that I've left at Bishop Carlton Pearsons' house, these are my donation. And my donation to, because of what he has gone through. And I visited him in hospital, and I saw the work that those professional people are doing, and realized that it doesn't come at a small cost. It's a very, very expensive exercise. And I decided that let us put people together. Let's start a fund, like a GoFundMe fund, and help Bishop and support him, because he's one of the great apostles of our time. He's one of the great apostles of the post-modern times that we live in. It's unfortunate that many of the people like Bishop Carlton Pearson get thanked after their demise, after they've died. And it has happened in many ways that, that man spoke the truth, but I didn't listen to him. And now he has gone, he's passed. So I encourage everybody to please support Bishop Carlton Pearson in any way that you can. There are books that are available. I think it takes about 3 days for the book to be posted to you once you make that donation of $20, if I'm right, Malachi.
Yes, and do whatever you can. We're gonna have to pay for shipping, but and hopefully I can get a discount. But the thing is we want to get this to you, and I'm looking to see if we can do something even more special whenever you get your package. So I will post that GoFundMe page also to Bishop's Facebook page. And we did, let's real quick, if we can go, we had a couple of questions real quick. And here we go here. And the question is Christ your Savior, or has he made us all safe from God's wrath?
Yeah, is Christ your Savior, or has he made us all safe from God's wrath? And I would say that is a universalism. And for me, I've gone beyond universalism or universal teachings, because I'm a universal spiritual teacher. Because these questions this question that is being asked here, you can't ask a Buddhist in Thailand. A Buddhist will say, "What are you talking about? Who's Christ? Who's Savior? Savior from what?" Because a Buddhist doesn't even know about Adam. You really have to educate a Buddhist that make a Buddhist believe that there was a person called Adam who lived and who fell. So these questions basically are Western questions. They apply to a Western consciousness. But I'm beyond that. I'm beyond a Western consciousness. I've got friends who are Buddhists. I've got friends who are Hindus. I've got friends who are atheists, agnostics. I've got friends who are nuns. They don't believe anything. They don't ask this type of questions. So these questions for me, they are neither here nor there. Because if you're going to ask that question, you have to start by asking yourself, was there a person called Adam? And then if you go into biblical scholarship, you then begin to realize that 80% of the Bible, 80% of the Bible was copied from ancient Near East civilizations, Mesopotamia, Babylon, and Egypt. And these civilizations lived 10,000 years to 20,000 years, even before Judaism was born, even before Abraham, if Abraham existed, started Judaism. There are religions that existed for 20,000 years. And in the digital age, in our digital age today, information is freely available. Whatever you want to know about the Bible, the origins of the Bible, just go to Google and ask, what are the origins of the Bible? You'll realize that 80% of the Bible was copied from civilizations that existed up to 10,000 years before it. So that question for me is neither here nor there, because it needs deep spiritual, biblical scholarship. Then the other question is, what is the Christ Spirit? And my answer to that, the Christ Spirit is the I am in you. The I am in a baby. If you're looking at a baby who's 1 year old, look through those eyes. As you look through those eyes, you are looking at the Christ Spirit. You are looking at the eye, that shining eyes, that shining baby who's 1 year old is a true representative of innocence, a true representative of the Christ Spirit. The Christ Spirit is the I am in every human being, whether they are aware of it or not, whether they believe it or not. The Christ Spirit is who they are. So we are all individuations of the Christ Spirit. We are all individuations of the one great I am. That's why we all say I am, I am, I am. I am means I'm an individuation of the great I am.
Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. I believe that is all of our questions we have. What I'm going to do, I'm going to, in this broadcast, I'm going to go ahead and put up this link here that's related to, if I can figure out this system here, we're going to put this link up, and I'm going to put this link up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the 3 minutes, once again, of the forward, which Bishop reads. He sounds wonderful, and he brings a really unique perspective in this book. And Bishop writes the forward, which is much longer than I'm going to play. But Muzi, we appreciate you for your time, and I will speak with you after this, and we will go ahead, guys, and we're going to play this one more time. And if you would like to have a copy of that book, I have that domain name right there, and I will also post it on Bishop's Facebook page so that you have the opportunity to go ahead and go to that GoFundMe and help Muzi with this effort to do something for Bishop and his family. Thank you, Muzi, and we will speak to you soon. And guys, listen to Bishop read this last piece.
Great pleasure to introduce Muzi Cindi to our emerging universal world of consciousness readers. His pioneering spirit and theological genius have been confined largely to South Africa. Muzi was one of the pastors who used to frequent my meetings in the early 80s when I visited South Africa under the banner of the Word of Faith movement. In 2007, he had an awakening that ushered him into universal consciousness. We then reconnected, again under the banner of expanded consciousness. Muzi is playing a very important pioneering role in our universe that is now waking up from its deep sleep. As you read this very controversial book, consider the following about the United States of America. Fewer people are going to church these days, especially younger ones, called the millennial generation. They are 22 to 37 years old and also known as Generation Y. Research has shown that 90% of people in the millennial generation are very active on social networks in America. Less than 20% of all Americans are actually attending church on any given Sunday. In other words, more than 80% of Americans are finding more fulfilling things to do on weekends. The USA is following right in the footsteps of Europe, abandoning religiosity in favor of authentic spirituality. Somewhere between 4,000 and 7,000 churches are closing their doors every year. Between the years of 2010 and 2012, more than half of all churches in America failed to add even one new member. Each year, nearly 3 million more previous churchgoers are entering the ranks of the religiously unaffiliated. The spiritual curiosity and fascination in religion has disappeared due to stagnation, ritual, tradition, and sleepwalking saints, believers. Millions of people experience greater transformation and inspiration from drugs, secular music, rock concerts, parties, and sports than they do from the typical rote style or staleness of traditional Sunday services. Talented musical performers on TV's The Voice or American Idol seem more anointed, or at least more gifted, than the musicians at many church services these days. My social media rants are to encourage all of us to reconsider and revisit our entrenched beliefs about God, the Bible, church, Jesus, etc., and to question why we believe them. I love community, both spiritually and socially, but does going to church have the same appeal to you as it once did, or did it ever have spiritual appeal?
I'm no longer trying to escape from the curses I was born to break. Finding a way to overcome my fears. I am strong enough. There might be some bumpy roads ahead, but I'm equipped. I've learned some great lessons. The power lies in me. Now I see so clear.